Just in 10 minutes, we are going to discuss about dynamically switching between measures in Power BI using field parameters. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please do subscribe. This is the scenario. I want to create a bar chart that will show either deposits total, that is a measure, against a client ID, or loans total, that is another measure, against client ID. And I want to dynamically switch between these two measures through a slicer. The chart title should also dynamically change. This can be done manually, a couple of steps involved, or using the option called field parameters. As on date of recording this video, field parameters is a preview feature. Check your Power BI options and settings to ensure that this feature is selected. So, this is what we want. We have two measures called deposits total and loans total, and I do have client ID. Would like to create a chart with reference to client ID and deposits total, as well as a client ID and loans total. And then would like to make use of a slicer in which the measures are shown, and would like to switch between the measures by clicking on the slicer elements. You can also see that the chart's title changes the moment I choose another measure in the slicer. Let us now create the scenario using field parameters. Please remember that deposits total is one of the measures, loans total is another measure on which I am going to create a field parameter. Let me click on modeling, go to new parameter, click on fields, and then I need to give a name for my parameter. And after providing a name, I need to choose a measure. So I am going to call for deposits total and then loans total. Please have a look at this checkbox called Add Slicer to this page. Let me click Create. Now you can see a slicer is readily available in the screen, as well as we have a table in the name provided by us called Deposits and Loan, in which I do have a column called Deposits and Loans Fields, as well as a measure, as you can see in the screen. I would like to create a bar chart using the client ID, and then for the value x-axis, I am going to pull my deposit and loan to this well area. Then I am going to filter this for top 5. I am just using top 5 items in terms of deposits total, just to ensure that I show a limited number of client records in the visual. Let me click on Apply Filter, then you can see top 5 values. When I click on the measure called the loans total, you can see loans total by client ID is the chart's title. And what you see here is the loans total for every client. And when you click on the other measure called deposits total, you can see the chart's title is automatically changing, as well as the chart is now talking about the deposit total value inside the visual. This is pretty simple and useful. However, using a field parameters has got certain limitations. It cannot be used with implicit measures. It cannot be used with AI visual. And when no value from the slicer is selected, the chart is showing the data for both deposits total and the loans total. You may be happy about this, you may not be happy about this. That is a different story. Considering these limitations, you may be interested to find out, Raja, can you show me how to do this using a manual mechanism wherein we don't have all these limitations? Let us now create manually what the field parameters did for us. The first step in the manual method is to create a table. So I am going to click on the Enter Data icon in the Home tab of the ribbon. Need to give a name for my table, which I would like to call as swap measures. After providing name for the table, you need to provide a name for the column, which currently says column 1. I'm going to replace that with a text called measure. Then I need to type the names of the measures as row number 1 and row number 2. And once you have typed the names of the measures as row number 1 and row number 2, you can click on the load button, and then you can see a table called swap measures is created, within which we have a column called measure. This column is what we are going to use inside the slicer. Now you can see a slicer that is being created with the measure column from the swap measures table. So once the slicer is ready, the user will be clicking either of them. Now the task is, when the user clicks on any particular measure, we need to find out which one was checked. For that purpose, I have created a DAX measure in the name called selected measure, in which I am using the has one value function. The has one value function will identify which measure was selected by the user, and that will be used in the visual. For example, if the user is going to click on loans total from the checkbox inside the slicer, then the loans total measure will be used inside the visual. Otherwise, if the user is going to choose deposits total, that measure will be used. For this, we are using the switch function. Please remember the name of the measure. In this example, it is called selected measure. The next step is to create yet another DAX measure in the name dynamic title. It is also using the has one value function. And then you can see that the by client ID is a text string, since one of the axis values of the chart will be from a column called a client ID. I am calling this measure as dynamic title because this should change the title of the visual when the user chooses a different measure from the slicer. Let me now create the bar chart. I would like to use a client ID from the client lookup table, and then for the x-axis, I am going to pull selected measures from the swap measures table to the x-axis value. Nothing is visible here because we are using a has one value function. So I need to choose either one of the options here, deposits total or loans total. Let me click on deposits total. I am getting the values. When I switch to the other measure called loans total, I can see things are changing in the visual. But when you look at the chart's title, it is not dynamically changing. You may ask me a question, but Raja, we have created something called a dynamic title. Yes, we have created, but that was not yet applied to this visual. That should happen via conditional formatting. So I am now in the title pane of the selected visual, wherein I have an option called conditional formatting, in which I would like to make use of a field value. And where is the field value? It is available in the swap measures called a dynamic title. Let me click OK. And then you can see it is now showing loans total by client ID or deposits total by client ID. So we have just created what the field parameters gave us without the limitations of field parameters. So if you are interested in this mechanism, please give a try, and so that you can create similar dynamically changing measures that can be used inside even AI visuals in your data set. When we use a field parameters method, a table, a measure, and a slicer are automatically created. In addition to that, the chart's title automatically changes depending upon which measure in the slicer was selected. In the manual method, we need to create a table, create a slicer, create two DAX measures, and apply the measure for title through conditional formatting. While the first method of using field parameters is so simple, there are limitations in that. Depending upon your requirement, you can follow either one of them when you need to dynamically switch between measures. Hope you got the points clear. You have just watched JTM-12 video. We await your comments on this topic. Thanks for watching this video. See you in the next video.